Are you looking at my cock? Just kidding, I don't have any roosters.
But if the neighbors are asking questions, it's just a shed. The entire base will be made of 2x6s. You could attach them by your eyes, or you could use a corner jig like I did on this. I'm gonna have a huge peeping Tom window to spy on these chickens at all points of the day. So you gotta make sure the framework is up to snuff. The easiest way to make this level is use some paver blocks and some sand. I'm gonna use 2 pieces of plywood and cover the base. My father-in-law cannot have a relaxing weekend at the house, so I make him do some stuff. If you're watching this, love you. All the walls are gonna be connected to the floor and each other. Once the walls are in place, you can put some sheathing to wrap the whole entire thing. Again, get some help from someone and use some clamps to make your life easier. I don't size the boards until I put them up and then cut everything out with a jigsaw and a router. I can never do any kind of build without my little helpers working. You're basically making another box to serve as the roof. I'm gonna have around a 6-inch overhang on all sides. I'm gonna use some H1 hurricane ties to attach the roof to the base. You don't need to make it all crazy. This is the easiest way to do it. For the roofing material, I use a polycarbonate smoked out sheet. I cut this using my Dremel rotary tool with a cutoff wheel. Now it's finally time to make this thing look pretty. I'm gonna frame out the door and window and add some board and batten. The board and batten is the best way to actually hide the screw holes and make it look nice. You could use some smart siding for this, but it's really up to you. I also decided to make the window myself so I could size it up exactly how I wanted. The inner frame of the window will be made out of 2x4s that are cut at a 45-degree angle. I also am going to add a little groove so a plexiglass piece will sit right inside. I bring it back to the home location and make sure it fits like a glove. I dress up the window by using some decorative trim on the inner and outer portion of the windows. Again, everything is cut at a 45-degree angle to make it nice and snug. Once the window is up, I move on to making the door. The door will be made out of 2x6s and 1x6s. The 1x6s will be inset inside the door, and I'm just gonna pocket hole screw it to the frame. I made another window for the top portion of the door just like I made the actual window. I like the feature of having a little bit more light inside the chicken coop. I even use the same decorative trim on the outside and inner portion of the window to hold everything in place. Inside the coop, we decided to use a laminate sheet, so I had my wife and son cut off a perfect square and drop it in. I decided to make a rollaway nesting box so when the chickens lay their eggs, they don't actually poop on them either. Less cleaning for the missus is always a good thing. Eventually, I'll make a hole in the front to access the chicken eggs just from the front of the coop. Once you make the outer box, you can bring it back inside the coop and hang it up on a piece of 2x4 just like a French cleat. Then I bring the baby chickens over to see if they like the new coop. I think cluck cluck means yes. I added a secondary cage to keep the old chickens away from the new chickens and a roosting bar that actually is detachable so we could clean up the poop easier with some sand. It's finally time to paint this bad boy. I'm going to be using Bayer wood paint in a creamy white color. I think it's called winter something or another. I'll get the exact thing if you're curious. I also enlisted my best painter to come help me with this job. I only paid her half because she could only paint half the coop. She's basically a pro at this. The perfect time to break out my paint sprayer for things like this. For the doors, window, and roof area, I finished that up with black paint. Everything is wood paint so it doesn't mess up or fall apart. Then I moved on to building the run. This run will be 8x16. I drilled a big old latch screw right through the bottom up through the post. I repeated this to make all 4 sides. So to make it a little bit taller and a little bit cooler, I used 2 boards sandwiched between 2 other boards and I pocket hold everything together to give it that extra height that I needed. So I made 2 of these that go on top of the wall and the back on either side. And this is exactly how the entire back wall will look. What I'm making now is a coop door side. I wanted to make sure the door was wide enough and tall enough so you wouldn't have to bend down like the last one. Once all the walls are up, I'm going to be covering this whole entire thing with hardware cloth. I must say working with hardware cloth is a pain in the butt because it's so stiff, but it definitely will keep all the animals out. Or in this case, some of the animals in. I use the same H1 hurricane ties as I did inside the coop as I did for the coop run. I also use the same kind of roofing materials I did for the coop to make everything match. Then I finished everything out by painting it all black. This is a pretty straightforward build. If anybody wants to know any more information, hit me up in the comments.